Chapter 1: The AI Tipping Point. Why Generation X Can't Afford to Be Left Behind. Welcome to the future. It's weirder than expected. Alright, fellow Gen Xers, let's talk. We grew up in the analog world, survived the transition to digital, and now, somehow, we're standing at the gates of an AI-driven future wondering how the hell we got here. One minute we were rewinding VHS tapes with a pencil. The next, we're arguing with our smartphones about why autocorrect keeps changing ducking into something far less polite. And now, AI. Like real AI. The kind we saw in the Terminator and war games. It's not just a sci-fi fever dream anymore. It's here. And for better or worse, it's changing everything. Before we start panicking about Skynet, let's take a step back and acknowledge one important fact. We, Gen X, are uniquely suited for this moment. We were the first to program a VCR, mostly because our parents couldn't. We survived dial-up, internet, Napster lawsuits, and AIM chat rooms filled with weird usernames like Radical X69. We've been guinea pigs for every major technological shift over the past 40 years. And yet, somehow, we've managed to keep up. Mostly. But this AI thing, it's different. It's learning, it's adapting, and it's coming for every part of our lives, from work to entertainment to whether or not we can still sound cool when texting our kids. Spoiler. We can't. So the question is, do we embrace it, or do we become the digital fossils complaining about how back in my day we didn't need no fancy robots to write our emails? Another spoiler, we need to embrace it. AI, the thing that's making us question everything. Let's address the elephant in the room. Or rather, the artificially intelligent elephant. AI freaks a lot of people out, and for good reason. For decades, Hollywood has been drilling it into our heads that AI will either, 1, enslave humanity, the Matrix, 2, make us obsolete, iRobot, or 3, fall in love with Joaquin Phoenix, her. And while we're not saying that any of these are impossible, seriously, Siri's already giving some of us weird vibes. The reality is a little less dramatic. AI is not here to destroy us. It's here to make things easier, if we let it. But that's the problem, isn't it? Trust. We grew up in an era where technology was unreliable at best, and actively out to ruin our lives at worst. Windows 95 crashed more often than our BMX bikes. Tamagotchis required more upkeep than an actual pet. And if you so much as looked at a floppy disk the wrong way, it would corrupt your school project faster than you could say, "Mom, I swear I saved it." So why exactly should we trust AI? That's the real fear, isn't it? What if we're being replaced? What if all of this convenience comes at the cost of our relevance? What if one day we wake up and AI is doing our jobs better than we ever could, and all we have left is our vintage Pearl Jam collection and a deep existential crisis? Breathe. We've been here before. Remember when ATMs became a thing, and everyone thought bank tellers were done for? Or when the internet first started handling travel bookings, and people swore travel agents would go extinct. Yet, here we are, decades later, with both professions still standing, albeit a little differently. AI isn't here to replace us. It's here to augment us, to take the annoying, time-consuming tasks off our plates so we can focus on things that actually matter, like enjoying life, pursuing passions, and explaining to our kids why the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were objectively cooler in the 80s. Gen X, we're built for this age, even if we don't know it yet. So here's the kicker. We're actually the best equipped generation to handle this AI transition. Why? Because we are the bridge generation. We've one foot in the analog world and one in the digital. And unlike boomers, who had to be dragged into technology kicking and screaming, and Gen Z, who were basically born with an iPad glued to their hands, we've had to adapt to every single technological shift in real time. We're the MacGyver generation. We figured out how to fix broken Walkmans with duct tape and determination. We survived the Y2K panic. We learned to code in BASIC on Apple II computers in school, only to have that skill become useless by the time we hit the workforce. And guess what? We did it all without Google. So why exactly are we afraid of AI? We already survived the rise of the internet, social media, and the sheer humiliation of having to ask our kids how to turn off the voice control on the TV remote. AI, this is just another tool. And if there's one thing we know, it's that a tool is only as good as the person using it. What can AI actually do for us besides making us paranoid? All right, enough fear-mongering. Let's try practical benefits. What can AI actually do for us in ways that matter? 1, it can save us time. Remember how much life changed when you got a DVR and could finally fast forward through commercials? AI's like that, but for everything. It can schedule our meetings, automate emails, organize our to-do lists, and even help us remember anniversaries, which, let's be honest, some of us really need. If it wasn't for Facebook, I'd hardly know anyone's birthday. 2, it can make us more productive. Imagine having an assistant who never sleeps, never complains, and never steals your lunch from the office fridge. That's AI. 3, it helps us stay relevant. If we're being real, no one wants to be that person who doesn't know how to use technology. AI is already being integrated into so many aspects of our life: work, finance, healthcare. Learning it now means staying ahead of the curve instead of playing catch up later. 4, it lets us focus on what actually matters. The less time we spend wrestling with emails and spreadsheets, the more time we have for the good stuff: families, hobbies, road trips with the Best of Queen blasting on the stereo. 5, keeps us from sounding like boomers on the internet. AI-powered tools can help us communicate better, fix typos, and even prevent us from accidentally sending a text in all caps, like we're yelling at everyone. My final thoughts: the choice is ours. Here's the deal. AI is coming, whether we like it or not. The only question is, do we want to be active participants in this revolution, or do we want to sit on the sidelines, shaking our heads like we did when people started wearing skinny jeans? This book is about embracing AI on our own terms. We don't have to dive in head first and let an AI bot control our entire lives, but we also shouldn't ignore the fact that it can make life a whole lot easier. Gen Xers have spent our entire lives adapting. We've gone from rotary phones to smartphones, from Saturday morning cartoons to on-demand streaming. We've adjusted before, and we can do it again. And besides, if anyone's going to make AI work for us, and not the other way around, it's going to be the generation that spent the 80s programming their own video game cheat codes. So let's do this. Chapter 2. What AI really is and what it's not. Breaking down AI misconceptions and understanding AI as a tool, not a replacement. All right, Gen X, let's set the record straight on AI. Let's be honest. If you ask 10 different people what AI is, you'll get 10 different answers. Some will say it's an evil robot army waiting to enslave us, i.e. Terminator. Others think it's just Siri and Alexa making passive-aggressive comments when we mispronounce words. And then there are those who believe AI is some kind of digital wizardry that will solve all of life's problems, including finally figuring out why that one sock always disappears in the dryer. Spoiler, AI is none of these things. At least, not exactly. AI is not magic, it's not conscious, and despite what Elon Musk and half the internet might say, it's not plotting to replace you, steal your job, or convince your smart fridge to shame you for eating ice cream at midnight. AI is a tool, and like every other tool we've seen in our lifetime, whether it was a Walkman, the personal computer, or those frustrating universal remotes that never quite worked, it's only as good as the person using it. So let's break this down the Gen X way. We've been through enough tech booms and busts to see past the hype, and we know that before we panic or ignore AI altogether, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. First, let's get the misconceptions out of the way. Misconception number 1, AI is going to take over the world. Look, we've all seen The Matrix, iRobot, and that Black Mirror episode where the robot dogs hunt humans for sport. And while dystopian fiction is great, let's take a reality check. AI doesn't want anything. It's not sitting in a virtual boardroom plotting our demise. It doesn't even know it exists. AI is just really good at recognizing patterns, crunching data, and spitting out answers based on what it's learned. Think of it this way. If AI was an actual person, it would be the kid in school who memorized the entire textbook, but had zero common sense. It can recite every fact about World War II, but has no clue why you shouldn't microwave aluminum foil. In short, it's smart in some ways, but dumb in others. Misconception number 2. AI will replace all jobs and we'll all be unemployed. This is a classic fear. Machines stealing our livelihoods, but let's be real. Hasn't every major technological advance caused us panic? ATMs, when they became common, people thought bank tellers were done for. Or when word processors became a thing and everyone thought secretaries were obsolete. Or when spell check was invented and we assumed no one would need to learn how to spell anymore. Okay, that last one might have some truth to it. Looking at you, the your versus your offenders. The reality is that AI will change jobs, not erase them. It's going to automate repetitive tasks, sure, but that's not the same as making human workers irrelevant. It's not about replacement, it's about evolution. Think about it like this. In the 80s, when people had to do research, they spent hours digging through encyclopedias or microfiche machines at the library. Then the internet happened, and suddenly we could Google anything in seconds. Did librarians vanish? No, their jobs changed. The same's going to happen with AI. For Gen X, this means we have a choice. Adapt and use AI to enhance what we do, or ignore it and risk becoming like those folks in the 90s who swore this internet thing is just a fad. Spoiler, the first option's better. Misconception number 3. AI can think like a human. AI might be able to pass tests, write essays, and even generate poetry. But let's get one thing straight. It's not actually thinking. AI doesn't have emotions, desires, or opinions. It doesn't wake up in the morning because it doesn't sleep, look in the mirror because it doesn't have one, and contemplate the meaning of its existence while sipping coffee because it doesn't drink coffee. Though, wouldn't that be weirdly impressive? AI is just really good at predicting the next word, sentence, or action based on massive amounts of data. It's not creative in the way a human is. It doesn't have intuition, a sense of humor, or that weird gut feeling that tells you not to trust a guy selling a genuine Rolex out of his trunk. So what is AI then? Now that we've debunked some myths, let's get down to what AI actually is. AI, at its core, is just software that learns patterns and makes predictions. That's it. It's a tool, not a consciousness. Think of it like this. Google search, AI. It predicts what you're looking for based on past searches. Netflix recommendations, AI. It tracks what you watch and suggests more of it. Though, let's be honest, it still doesn't quite understand our guilty pleasure for bad 90s sitcoms. Your car's cruise control, AI. It's been making micro adjustments to speed for years. The AI we're dealing with today isn't some sci-fi superintelligence plotting against you. It's just an advanced form of automation. It's smarter than Clippy, but dumber than your average 12-year-old. And like every other tool in history, it's up to us to use it wisely. AI as a tool and what that really means for us. Once we strip away the hype, AI becomes what it should be, a tool for making our lives easier. It's not here to replace creativity, critical thinking, or common sense, though some people could use more of that. How we can use AI effectively. For work, AI can automate emails, summarize reports, handle mundane tasks so we can focus on the big picture. For learning, AI-powered apps can help us learn new skills, whether it's a foreign language or how to fix a linky sink. For organizations, AI can help keep track of our schedules, remind us of important dates, and even suggest the best times to be productive. For fun, AI can create playlists based on our favorite 80s jams, generate weirdly hilarious images, or even help us write that novel that we've been putting off since 1997. Gen X, we got this. AI might seem intimidating, but here's the thing. We've adapted before, and we'll adapt again. We're the generation that survived the Oregon Trail computer game. Rest in peace to all those who died of dysentery. The great transition from rotary phones to touchscreens. The horror of accidentally calling someone back on a Nokia brick phone when it was in our pocket. We spent our entire lives rolling with technological punches and AI. This is just another one. So let's not be the ones left behind shaking our fists at the sky like some kind of analog dinosaur. Instead, let's do what we do best. Adapt, learn, and use AI to make our lives better on our own terms. Because if there's one thing we know, it's that Gen X doesn't just follow trends. We figure out how to use them to our advantage. And if AI is the next big thing, you better believe that we're going to master it. Chapter 3, The Digital Shift from Analog to AI. How Gen X has already bridged multiple technological eras, and why AI is just the next step. Welcome to the future again. Remember, when Back to the Future Part 2 told us we'd have flying cars by 2015? Yeah, that didn't exactly pan out. Instead, we got Twitter arguments, reality TV stars running for office, and people eating Tide Pods for fun. But while the promised future didn't arrive in quite the way we expected, one thing did come true. Technology has completely reshaped our lives. And here we are, Generation X, caught right in the middle, Again, we were the last kids to grow up analog and the first to go digital. We went from rotary phones to smartphones, from vinyl to CDs to MP3s to whatever the hell NFTs were supposed to be. We're the bridge generation. We learned how to use a typewriter and then had to figure out Microsoft Word. We played Pong, then Mario, then got motion sickness trying VR. We were taught cursive in school, only to find out later that nobody would ever ask us to use it. And now, AI is the next step. A lot of people are panicking about AI, worried that it's coming for our jobs, our privacy, and maybe our very humanity. And sure, there are things to be cautious about. But if history has shown us anything, it's that Gen X is uniquely equipped to handle this transition. Why? Because we've done it before. So let's take a trip down memory lane and remind ourselves how many technological upheavals we've already conquered. AI isn't scary. It's just another evolution in a long line of shifts we've already survived. Growing up in the analog world. The 70s and 80s. A time before internet, before social media, before everything was connected 24/7. We were raised in an era where, if you missed your favorite TV show, tough luck. You had to wait for a rerun. If you wanted to talk to a friend, you called their house and hoped their dad didn't answer. If you needed directions, you unfolded a paper map. And good luck folding it back. We actually had to memorize phone numbers, rewind cassette tapes with a pencil, and navigate life without Google. And we did it all without complaining too much. Then the technology started creeping in. The 80s and 90s, the dawn of the digital age. This was when things started to change. The digital world slowly invaded our analog existence and we adapted like champs. Remember the first home computers? They weren't sleek, pocket-sized devices, but giant beige monstrosities that took up an entire desk. The Apple II, the Commodore 64, the IBM machines that ran on DOS. These were our first real glimpse into the future. And let's be honest, those early computers were kind of a pain. Booting them up took forever. If you made a typo in MS-DOS, good luck fixing it. Printing something? Hope you had an hour to spare while the dot matrix printer screamed at you. But we figured it out. We played Oregon Trail and inevitably died of dysentery. We learned BASIC. And somehow we managed to make it work. That's the Gen X way. The internet arrives. By the mid-90s, the internet started creeping into our lives, and let's be clear, early internet sucked by today's standards. Dial-up was slow, and you couldn't use the phone while online, and call waiting would interrupt your round of doom. Websites were ugly, clunky, and took forever to load. If you wanted to download a song, hope you had a few hours. And yet, we were the first generation to experience the magic of going online. Chat rooms, Napster, AOL Instant Messenger, early Yahoo searches. It was all new and exciting. And when the world went fully digital, we adapted. In the 2000s and 2010s, we really saw the rise of automation. By the time the 2000s rolled around, technology was no longer a novelty. It was the default. And once again, Generation X had to keep up. We switched from flipping through CDs in our cars to using iPods and later streaming services. We went from physical video rental stores, rest in peace Blockbuster, to on-demand streaming. We learned to text without physical buttons. Rest in peace, BlackBerry users. We know you still miss it. Everything started moving faster, and we had two choices. One, adapt and evolve, or two, become the grumpy old folks who complain about kids these days. We chose to evolve, and that brings us to AI. AI, the next shift that we're totally capable of handling. Here's the thing. AI isn't replacing us. It's just another evolution in the long line of technological shifts we've already survived. AI isn't magic. It's just another tool. Just like we transitioned from typewriters to word processors, from landlines to smartphones, AI is just the next step. It's here to help us, not make us obsolete. So what does AI actually mean for us? Well, one, it can save us time. Imagine an assistant that schedules your meetings, filters your emails, and remembers appointments better than you do. No more digging through files. AI can pull up information in seconds. It can even help write reports, summarize articles, and create presentations. Two, it can automate the boring stuff. AI can handle repetitive tasks like data entry, invoicing, or sorting emails. It can transcribe meetings, translate languages, and help us manage work-life balance better. Three, it can make us more creative. AI-powered tools can help edit photos, write content, compose music, and generate ideas. Instead of replacing creativity, AI is enhancing it, helping artists, writers, and musicians do more with less effort. It can keep us relevant as well. Whether you're in business, finance, healthcare, or retail, AI is changing every industry. Learning to use it now ensures we stay ahead rather than struggle to catch up later. For my final thoughts, we got this. Look, change is always weird at first. We get it. We're Gen X. We've seen it all. But let's be real. We've adapted to bigger shifts before. We went from recording songs off the radio to Spotify playlists. We went from flipping through encyclopedias to Googling everything. We went from blowing on NES cartridges to playing games that are so realistic they almost look like movies. AI isn't some mysterious force coming to steal our souls. It's just the next tool in tech evolution. And if history has proven anything, it's that we, Gen X, don't just adapt, we master. So let's stop fearing AI. Let's learn to use it and make it work for us. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, it's this. If we can survive Windows 95 crashes, MySpace, HTML coding, and the horror of accidentally calling someone on a Nokia brick phone, we can absolutely handle AI. Chapter 4. The Resistance Factor. Why some of us are hesitant. Common fears and misconceptions about AI and why we've been here before. Gen X versus AI. Another round in the tech wars. Let's get one thing straight. Generation X is not anti-technology. We've been early adopters, adapters, and sometimes outright rebels when it comes to tech. We were the kids who programmed VCRs while our parents stared in confusion. We were the first generation to hack video game consoles, build our own PCs, and get into heated arguments over whether Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo was superior. And yet, something feels different about AI. Even some of the most tech-savvy among us are hesitant. We see the news stories, we hear the warnings, and suddenly AI feels less like another helpful gadget and more like an impending existential crisis. We're not crazy. We've been burned before. Remember the dot-com bubble, or how we all thought MP3s were the future until they got obliterated by streaming? or when we thought social media was just a fun way to connect, only to watch it turn into a dumpster fire of misinformation, political arguments, and people posting 47 vacation selfies in a row. Yeah, we've learned not to trust the hype. So when AI comes along promising to revolutionize everything, we instinctively raise an eyebrow. We're not against progress. We just don't trust it blindly. So let's break it down. Why is Gen X hesitant about AI? What are we actually worried about? And most importantly, have we been here before? Fear 1. AI will destroy privacy, like everything else already did. What we fear. AI is gathering data on us. It's listening, watching, and learning. It knows what we type, what we watch, and what we buy. And that feels incredibly invasive. We've already watched big tech push the boundaries of privacy, and we're not eager to hand over even more of our personal lives. We've gone from thinking caller ID was a privacy violation to accepting that our smartphones track our location 24/7. So when AI promises to personalize our experiences, we know what that really means. It's going to hoard our data like a dragon sitting on a pile of gold. We've been here before. Remember when we all signed up for Facebook in the late 2000s and thought, cool, a way to reconnect with old friends? Fast forward a decade and we realized that Facebook was less about keeping up with Steve from high school and more about tracking our online behavior, selling our data, or bombarding us with creepy ads about things we only thought about buying. AI is just the next step in that evolution. It's not a new problem. It's just a bigger version of the same old problem. So, what's the solution? Understanding the trade-off. We've learned, sometimes the hard way, that if something is free, we are the product. AI-powered tools are no different. The trick is choosing how much we give away and being smarter about what data we let AI collect. Fear number 2. AI will kill creativity, just like digital killed the mixtape. What we fear. We grew up in a world where creativity took effort. Making the perfect mixtape meant hours of recording songs off the radio, hoping the DJ didn't talk over the intro. Writing a college paper meant digging through actual books instead of Googling the answer in 5 seconds. Designing a website meant hand coding HTML instead of just using a drag and drop builder. Now, AI is doing all of that. It can write music, generate art, create essays, and even produce entire videos with minimal human input. And that's terrifying, because if AI can do it all, what's left for us? We've been here before. Remember when auto-tune first hit the music industry? We freaked out. This is the death of real music. No one will ever have to actually sing again. And yet here we are, decades later, with people still making incredible, authentic music. Or how about digital photography? When cameras went from film to digital, people swore it would ruin photography forever. Real photographers develop film. Digital is for amateurs. Now, everyone takes digital photos, and the art of photography has evolved, not disappeared. AI will change creativity, but it won't replace it. It will automate some parts, but real creativity, that's human. Fear number 3. AI will take our jobs, like the robots were supposed to in the 80s. What we fear. This is the big one, the existential crisis. AI is already writing, designing, coding, analyzing data, and even diagnosing diseases. And that raises a terrifying question. If AI can do all this, what are we supposed to do? Again, we've been here before. Every time new technology arrives, people panic about job loss. During the Industrial Revolution, many people feared that machines would replace workers. Spoiler, new jobs were created instead. The ATM was supposed to kill bank teller jobs. Banks just changed how they operated instead. Self-checkouts were going to wipe out cashiers. Instead, we now have jobs maintaining and programming them. The truth is that jobs don't disappear, they evolve. Yes, AI will automate some roles, but it will also create entirely new industries. There will be jobs in AI maintenance, ethics, oversight, and integration. And if history has taught us anything, it's that the workforce adapts. And Gen X is really good at adapting. Fear 4, AI will turn into Skynet, because we've seen this movie before. What we fear, AI is getting smarter. It's learning, it's improving, and if you've ever watched a sci-fi movie, you know where this is going. The Terminator taught us that AI will turn against us. War games taught us that AI might accidentally start World War III. The X-Files had an episode where AI locked Mulder and Scully in a smart house and tried to kill them. And let's be real, we don't trust machines. We've all had printers refuse to work for no reason. We've all had GPS send us the wrong way down a one-way street. If those machines were AI powered, who's to say they wouldn't get ideas of their own? We've been here before. Remember when people thought microwaves would give us cancer? Or when cell phones were rumored to fry our brains? We've always had irrational fears about new tech. AI isn't self-aware, and it's not plotting our doom. It's just advanced automation. So unless you're running a secret military lab, we're probably safe. Here's my final thoughts. Embrace, adapt, and stay wary. So is AI something to be afraid of? Not really. Is it something to be aware of? Absolutely. We don't have to blindly trust, but we also shouldn't fear irrationally. Because if there's one thing Gen X knows, it's this. Technology changes, we adapt, and somehow we always come out on top. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go ask AI to make me a playlist of deep cut 80s rock and judge its choices accordingly.